but a guy had to be removed yesterday from the Annika Golfing Pro-Am that featured Caitlin Clark playing in the actual Pro-Am, and the celebrity caddies were Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hall. They had to get a guy out of there. A guy what?
Okay, this is wild. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham were just trying to have a chill day at a golf tournament, right? But then security had to yank someone off the course. And trust me, this was not your average fan freakout. What went down at the Annika Pro-Am exploded from super awkward to straight up insane in literal seconds. And honestly, the details that spilled out afterward, they're even crazier than the incident itself. Seriously, have you ever seen someone get booted from a live event? Let me know your craziest stories in the comments.
Caitlin Clark's Pro-Am interrupted by man claiming to be Sophie Cunningham's boyfriend. Wow. Wow. A man appearing to be in his 70s and claiming to be the boyfriend of WNBA star Sophie Cunningham was escorted off the grounds of the Pelican Golf Club during Caitlin Clark's Pro-Am round after apparently being the victim.
So, check this out. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull are chilling at the Pelican Golf Club for the Annika Pro-Am. It's supposed to be a super relaxed day of golf, celebrity sightings, and good vibes. Clark's out there playing. Sophie and Lexi are caddying in their awesome matching fever gear. Everything's totally wholesome and fun. But then, this guy in the gallery starts screaming Sophie Cunningham's name. Not just once, but over and over. Super loud. Security obviously notices, right? And when they walk up to figure out what's happening, he drops an absolutely unhinged bomb. I'm Sophie Cunningham's boyfriend.
According to the Daily Mail, Cunningham, who was among the celebrity caddies for the her Indiana Fever teammate, was walking the 10th fairway when the man shouted for her several times, calling her, quote, Soph. Cunningham, 29, ignored the calls. Two members of the Bel Air Police Department were assigned to the group for security. One stopped the man, demanding to see his driver's license and taking a photo to identify him. Although he complied, he told the officer it was not necessary.
Let that sink in for a second.
Picture this. A guy who looks like he's in his 70s is absolutely losing it on a golf course, yelling for a 29-year-old professional basketball player, literally telling police officers they're dating. The Bel Air police, who were actually assigned to this group for security, immediately stopped him and asked for his ID. And get this, the guy complies, but then tells the officer checking his ID that it's totally unnecessary, because, and I cannot stress this enough, he's with Sophie. Like, that explanation would just magically clear everything up, and the cops would be like, oh, our bad, carry on.
When he produced messages from social media accounted purporting to Cunningham's, the officer told the man he was likely being...
But hold up, because it gets so much worse from here. When the cops pressed him about this supposed relationship, the man pulls out his phone and starts showing them messages. Messages from a social media account he genuinely believed belonged to Sophie Cunningham. And this is where it shifts from just weird to genuinely heartbreaking. He'd actually sent this fake account almost $2,000 in gift cards. Think about that, $2,000. He honestly believed Sophie Cunningham, a pro athlete with major endorsement deals and a WNBA salary, was just sitting there, desperate for iTunes cards or whatever other random gift card scam these catfishers were running.
Man said he had sent his, quote, girlfriend almost $2,000 in gift cards through the account. This old man thought Sophie Cunningham was actually talking to him.
So, the officer on scene had to literally explain to this poor man that he was being scammed, that the account wasn't real, and that Sophie Cunningham was definitely not his girlfriend and had never asked him for money. But here's the kicker, the guy wasn't buying it. He kept insisting he just needed to talk to Sophie. Like she'd totally verify his story and clear up this big misunderstanding. The sheer level of denial to hold on to that belief while police are actively escorting you off a golf course? It's absolutely staggering. A sheriff's golf cart rolls up. Because of course that's how you get removed from a golf event. And as they're loading him in, he's still protesting, "So what? You're gonna eject me for speaking to my girlfriend?" Like the cops are the unreasonable ones here. Then as they're driving away, he's still calling out, "If I could just speak to her," as if mere proximity would somehow make his delusion real. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about what Sophie Cunningham was dealing with through all this. She's just out there trying to caddy for her teammate, have some fun, engage with actual fans, and some complete strangers screaming her name, claiming to be her boyfriend, while security has to intervene. That's not just uncomfortable, that's legitimately scary, because catfishing scams that morph into in-person confrontations can turn dangerous super fast. It's fortunate this particular guy seemed more deluded than threatening, but it easily could have gone way differently, and she handled it perfectly. She ignored him completely, didn't engage, didn't try to explain, didn't give him any attention whatsoever. She just kept walking and let security do their job, which is exactly the correct response when someone you don't know is claiming a relationship with you. Zero acknowledgement, because even denying it gives these people the direct interaction they desperately want. What's even crazier is how common these scams have become. The Athletic recently did a deep dive into catfishing schemes targeting athletes, and guess what? This happens all the time. Fans get totally conned into believing they're talking to their sports heroes and then tricked into sending money via crypto or gift card. These scammers create incredibly convincing fake accounts using stolen photos, preying on lonely or vulnerable people who just desperately want that attention to be real. LPGA Tour members, in particular, have been heavily targeted, with a security firm even saying people regularly show up at tournaments believing they've paid for private dinners with players. But here's where it gets even darker, because some victims show up angry, thinking the athlete herself personally scammed them and kept their money. They don't believe it was a fake account. They think the actual player took their cash and ghosted them. Can you even imagine being Sophie Cunningham and constantly having to worry that some stranger might show up hostile because they were scammed by someone pretending to be you? That's not just an annoyance, that's a legitimate safety concern, because these athletes have zero control over fake accounts using their names and images, yet they're the ones who have to deal with the terrifying fallout when victims come looking for answers or confrontation. And what's even more insane is the tech making these scams worse is evolving rapidly. AI voice cloning means scammers can now make it sound like the actual athlete is talking to victims. Video deepfakes are getting scarily convincing, making it harder and harder to distinguish what's real from what's completely fabricated. So these elderly or vulnerable targets genuinely believe they're in real relationships with these athletes because the evidence seems legitimate. Photos, messages, voice notes, all fake, but convincing enough to drain bank account. And look, it's easy to mock someone for falling for this stuff, but elder fraud is a massive, massive problem. Older people grew up in an era where if someone called claiming to be from the electric company, it probably was the electric company. They just didn't develop the deep skepticism needed to navigate our modern scam culture. So when a social media account with Sophie Cunningham's face starts messaging them and building a relationship, many just don't have the tools to recognize it as fake. That doesn't make them stupid, it makes them victim. The fact that this guy was 70 years old and honestly believed he was dating a 29-year-old WNBA player he'd never actually met is incredibly sad. He spent $2,000 on gift cards for someone who doesn't even exist, showed up at a golf tournament expecting his girlfriend to be thrilled to see him. Instead, he got escorted off the property by police while everyone watched. That's a rough day by any measure, no matter how delusional the thinking that led there. But from Sophie, Caitlin, and Lexi's perspective, this was a huge disruption to what should have been a fun event. They're out there trying to raise money for charity, connect with legitimate fans, and enjoy some time away from the basketball grind. And then security has to step in because someone's causing a scene in the crowd. That totally takes attention away from the actual event and creates a super uncomfortable environment for everyone involved. What's absolutely wild is that this happened right after Sophie accidentally hit a spectator with an errant drive, a moment that was hilarious and wholesome, where Sophie buried her face in Caitlin's shoulder from embarrassment, then ran over to hug the guy she hit, took pictures, and signed the ball. A total classic sports moment everyone enjoyed. Then like an hour later, there's they're dealing with someone getting removed by police, the emotional whiplash of going from light-hearted fun to a legitimate security concern, it's jarring. This whole catfishing element also highlights how bizarre fame has become in the social media age. Athletes have always dealt with obsessed but the parasocial relationships enabled by social media create situations where people genuinely believe they have personal connections with celebrities they've never actually met. Add in scammers actively exploiting that delusion for financial gain, and you get nightmare scenarios like someone showing up at a golf tournament claiming to be Sophie Cunningham's boyfriend. What makes this particularly insidious is that the athletes themselves have no way to prevent it. Sophie can't stop someone from creating a fake account using her photos. She can report it, but 10 more pop up immediately. She can post warnings on her real account, but the people being targeted often only interact with the fake one, so she's powerless to protect her own image or prevent people from being scammed in her name. That's incredibly frustrating and violating in ways most people don't even consider. Now, the security response itself, it was appropriate and professional. The Bel Air police officers assigned to the group handled it quickly and discreetly, identified the guy, determined he wasn't an immediate threat, explained he was being scammed, and removed him without creating a bigger scene. That's exactly how that situation should be managed. No escalation, no drama, just efficient problem solving that prioritized everyone's safety. But the fact that this level of security is even necessary at a charity golf event says something profound about where we are culturally. Caitlin Clark can't just play golf without police escorts because her popularity is so massive that crowds become unmanageable and situations like this are inevitable. That's the undeniable trade-off of fame at her level. You get the endorsements and the platform, but you lose the ability to exist in public spaces without serious security infrastructure. And poor Caitlin's just trying to work on her golf game and support a good cause. She probably heard the commotion, saw security moving in, and thought, oh great, here we go again, because this is her reality now. Every public appearance comes with the possibility that someone will do something wild that requires intervention. That's exhausting. There's no off switch. Even at a golf tournament, you're on high alert. Oh, and the multiple guys who pretended Sophie's ball hit them because they wanted attention. That's also peak modern sports fandom. She actually hit one person, but several others fell down hoping to get the same treatment. That's pathetic, but also kind of funny in a sad way because everyone's so desperate for a moment with these athletes that they'll fake injuries for a photo op. The thirst is real and it's deeply embarrassing. What this incident really exposes is how incredibly vulnerable athletes are to this kind of harassment and exploitation. They can't control who uses their image. They can't prevent scammers from targeting vulnerable people in their name. They can't stop delusional individuals from showing up at public events with completely fabricated stories about their relationships. All they can do is rely on security, try to ignore the chaos, and desperately hope nobody gets hurt. The fact that The Athletic felt compelled to do an entire investigation into catfishing scams targeting athletes just shows how widespread this problem has become. It's not isolated incidents anymore. It's a systematic issue affecting athletes across multiple sports with financial and safety implications that leagues and security firms are actively trying to address. And honestly, there's no easy solution because the scammers are always evolving their tactics to stay ahead of prevention efforts. For Sophie Cunningham specifically, this has to be incredibly unnerving. She's out there trying to live her life and build her career, and strangers are creating fake versions of her to defraud people, and then those victims show up at her workplace demanding answers. That's not just annoying, it's a legitimate threat to her peace of mind and physical safety, because while this particular guy seemed harmless, the next one might not be. The major lesson here is that fame in 2025 comes with complications previous generations of athletes never had to navigate. Michael Jordan didn't have to worry about deepfake videos or AI voice clones. Serena Williams didn't deal with catfishing scams creating fake relationships in her name. Modern athletes face threats and violations that are entirely new, and frankly, the systems to protect them are still catching up. So yeah, what should have been a fun charity golf event ended up turning into a full-blown security situation because scammers are out here ruining everything for everyone. Sophie Cunningham handled it absolutely perfectly. Security did their job flawlessly, and hopefully that poor guy finally learned a crucial lesson about internet scams. Now, if you want more no-fluff sports content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Seriously, have you ever been scammed online? Drop your story below. I want to hear it.